Hello, everyone. Welcome to the second session of this year Oxford Virtual Geoheritage Conference, OxGVC 2025. We will have 6 flash talks given in 5 minutes on very interesting topics, and then some flash talk panel with questions. So do not be shy and do not forget to ask any questions you have for any of the presentation that will be presented, and then we will have 3 15 minutes presentation. So to not waste the time, please welcome the first presenter with Antonio Venezia with his presentation.
Hello,
With
everyone.
Antonio, are you ready? Okay,
Yes, yes.
your five
Okay,
minutes starts.
okay. Thank you, everyone. I'm very pleased. It's a very pleasure for me to be here, and I'm a PhD student from the University of Bari in southern Italy. And today I will talk about why the calcarenite di gravina formation at Matera in southern Italy could be a potential candidate for the IUGS Heritage Stone list. The calcarenite di gravina formation is locally unproperly as tufo, and it's a coastal calcarenate deposit made of a mix of terrigenous lime clasts and autochthonous bioclasts. The calcarenate di gravina, it's Pleistocene age. It represents the first term of the succession and filling of the botanic trough. At
Vitantonio,
yes,
just we cannot see your slides, so to be quick, will you click your slides on the left-hand side because we cannot see the presenter view. But if you click slide 2, then
okay,
we should be able. Yes, there we
okay,
go. Please carry on your
okay,
talk.
okay. Okay, I was saying that the calcarenate di gravina is the first term of the filling suggestion of the Badanic trough, and it overlies in a conformity over the Apulian Foreland Cretaceous limestones in the southern Apenninic orogenic system in southern Italy. The limestone bioclasts are made of round pebbles of the Cretaceous limestone basement, while the autochthonous bioclasts are produced into the basin and are made of this are set in this sigmoid shape bodies that are still visible in the center of the city around the building in the houses. Matera is very famous for this sassy that is the oldest district in the city, and this district is entirely dug in the calcarenite rock. In fact, you can see in this picture that the lower boundary of the city corresponds to the geological contact from the calcarenite di gravina and the bedrock, and the oldest and the district were inhabited by more than 200 inhabitants, and the development of the city was depending on the calcarenites, since the first thing that were caved were tanks to collect water, but then these tanks were used as houses by caving the rock and making an entrance, and using the same rock caved from the stone to make building blocks for the wood for walls, as you can see here in these pictures. Then the houses were built and dug one near the other, making this architectural nucleus that is the vicinato. That was also a cultural nucleus, since the families lived together, sharing their resources and their lives in the Sassi. And And this was the base of the development of the Rupestrian culture of Matera. Today, the Sassi are still inhabited, but also are worldwide known, famous touristic sites. In fact, you can see here in picture 4 how many tourists are present, but still in the Sassi there are also activities in places like restaurants for weddings, but also the Sassi hosts cultural events. For example, in picture 6, you see in the Cave Rocks there is a hall for conferences. So since its key role in the development of the buildings or the architectural structure of the Sassi, and since the stone has played a significant role in the development of the culture, in the Rupestrian culture of Matera, we argue that the calcarenite rigravina could be fulfills 2 out of the 4 criteria asked from the IUGS for the inclusion of the in the heritage stone list. So that's all. Thank you for your attention.
Vito Antonio, thank you very much for your presentation and for keeping the time.
Yes.
That's it for your presentation, and we will move to the presentation given by Silas Costa on the role of mining in geoheritage exposure within UNESCO Global Geoparks. So, welcome Silas, are you ready? Silas, unmute your mic.
Hello, everyone. So let's start. We have just 5 minutes to introduce you the whole of mining heritage is producing within UNESCO Global Geoparks. So let's go for it. The geoheritage is important. Is related. Is very connected with the active mines and the non-active mines in geoparks. But at the same time, the mining damaged the geological sites. But on the other hand, we have the creation of new heritage exposures. We have research, education, public engagement, and we have also the recognition of geoheritage in mining environments. So this paper, this is part of my master thesis that I did last year. We have as objective identify geoheritage features exposed by mining in UNESCO Global Geoparks, and we classified and correlated these discoveries to the main geoheritage charge or all the variables in the geoparks. So for this, we mapped 15 criteria that involve geographical criteria, geoheritage interests. We have also mining methods and the relevance of these geosites, and we have analyzed the inventory of the geoparks also, and the cultural part with mining heritage and mineral resources and infrastructure in these geoparks. The most important criteria that we can mention is the criteria number 8 that we just classified by relevance. These exposures, the geoheritage exposures in mining environments, in mining sites. And we have also, we did field stage and bibliographical review also in many geoparks. And after we analyzed using statistics, we used the correlations, we used the multivariate regression and the frequency. And for this, we obtained these results that are important, relevant results. We have the most part of the geoparks, the 213 geoparks that we have in the network, have some main geoheritage related to mine environments, how we can see in the map. And here we see the evolution through time, and we see that the mine exposures related to the mine geoheritage, let's say, sites are in a crescent trend. And we have, in these geoparks that we have geoheritage connected to mine environments, we have less area to present more geoheritage content. we have more of 70% of the UNESCO Global Geoparks having mines or quarries as geological sites. More, we have these mines having 13% of all geoparks having a high or very high relevance when we have this relation mine and the geological sites. And here we have the types of geological heritage, and we see that paleontological, mineralogical, igneous, stratigraphical, and cosmogenical geoheritage interests very connected to the mining environments. And then finally, we can see that mining environments and geoheritage are very important in a lot of protected areas, recognized geological sites. We have these mine environments being conserved in a lot of geoconservation strategies in the world, but also we have a lot of strategies led by the geoparks as a creation of museums, protecting expositions and exposures from the alternative remediation uses. We have a lot of geosites in active mines where we interrupted and conserved the mine fronts in active mines. So the mine environment is very important to the geological sites in the UNESCO Global Geoparks. We have a lot of examples such as the Hong Kong Geopark, Morocco Geopark, in Europe, in Asia, in Africa, in South America, in North America. We have a lot of examples in a lot of geoheritage interest examples. For example, here in the Seridor Geopark, we have an exposition of skarn deposit. When we can see in underground mine pillars, we can see a perfect example of mineralization. But not only this. For example, in the Netherlands, we have a glacier, stratigraphical resistance of this old glacier. We have this resistance in a quarry, for example. This is very common in the geoparks. So we have 20 years of GGN where the geoheritage and mine exposures are expanding. We have more the global geoheritage, let's say the Alps mountains or the Andes mountains, or I don't know, a lot of expressions of international geoheritage relevant content being exposed by mining. And we have also the UGSP's highest geoheritage density having this relation with mining. We have also the cultural part as mining heritage as a cultural legacy in the UNESCO Global Geoparks. And we have this need of better comprehension of geoheritage commerce in this relation between acception of active mining industries or geoparks, such as because the geoparks are instruments of sustainable development, not only the preservation, but conserve and promote the development of several regions. So mining is like a search and destroy mission. It's a famous phrase from an American ex-minister, but it's not a complete true, because mining is a way to create new exposures of geoheritage, is a way to conserve the memory of our planet. So thank you so much.
Thank you very much for your presentation, Silas. Thank you very much once again. Just to note, anyone who wants to ask something, don't be shy to place a question on the comments. And let's move on to the next presentation, which will be given by Mustafa Amzil.
Hi, Dubo. Thanks, Jax. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you see my slides?
Yeah, we can see it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Your 5 minutes start.
Thank you. So my name is Mustafa Amzil from Hassan University from Casablanca, from Morocco. I'm pleased to present how we have used innovative and digital solutions to preserve our geoheritage in Morocco, especially in this context of digital era. The topic of our presentation is Geomatics for Geoheritage Insight for the Moroccan Middle Atlas of Morocco. So before starting, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to my colleagues Amar Zavati and Mustafa Okasu for their instrumental contribution for this to the success of this work. So can move to the second slide. So in this slide, I'm presenting the location of our project, which is part of my thesis. So the Middle Atlas Jurassic continental deposit of Morocco and Atlas are rich in tetrapod footprints, including those of crocodiles, morphs, and pterosaurs and dinosaurs. However, these unique geological features face threats from erosion, urban growth, and vandalism, compounded by a lack of awareness and protection conduct to negligence, as seen in the picture on the right side of my slide. To leverage these sites for tourism and education, we thought to some digital solution to benefit the local community and to promote the scientific knowledge. That's why we conducted these two studies in those two sites, in Anshrif and Elmers sites. So for the first application, we have the first study aimed to create a detailed documentation for the Anshrif paleontological site or lake for a 3D virtual visit. So the work combined, as you've seen in the field work, we have used the 3D laser scanning, terrestrial laser scanning, and also combined it with the UAV photogrammetry to create an accurate and high density point clouds. So we generated point cloud from the scanner and also the digital model surface from the drones, and we combined the both data on the softwares with 100 images from drones and 32 scans from TLS from TLS laser scanner to produce high accurate point cloud. And then later we generated some textured 3D models, as you've seen in the screen on the top right of the slide. This 3D model with high details representing and reflecting the reality as it is, with many details, geological details, and also the excavated site on this paleo lake. And then we published this result later on the web platform to promote this geological site and this geoheritage site. A 3D virtual visit is here suggested in order to promote and valorize these sites, which allows to visitors to move virtually in the museum and to navigate throughout this application from their smartphone on the laptop using the augmented information projecting virtual reconstruction of the background and the real environment. The platform hosting the virtual visit can be fed with the informative and as you've seen the screen on the right of my slide, some informative and dedicated documentation integrated in on the top of the 3D model. So we can navigate throughout the 3D model and also seeing some narration and also clicking and having some geological information, videos, pictures, scientific papers, and else. So I really recommend to scan the QR code on this slide to learn more about our published paper for this application. I will move on the second application for our work. In this study, the first images you've seen, we have involved a standard ichnological and sedimentological methods in our field work conducted in May 2023. And we digitally recorded and modeled a total of 433 footprints, dinosaur footprints. These footprints included isolated ones with the 29 trackways of sauropods and theropods for multiple locations in the northeastern of Elmers Syncline. So contributing on the preservation of these important fossils in Elmers site, in this site, with its dinosaur tracks, emphasize the value of photogrammetry for 3D digitalization in preserving and enhancing ecological heritage. So we have used also terrestrial photogrammetry to produce high resolution 3D models and precise photorealistic 3D models, as you can see in our screen. So this modern alternative, this is a modern alternative to traditional method, making information more accessible and promoting dissemination specifically for scientific knowledge. So we have created also, as you see here in my slide.
Mustafa, I'm really sorry to interrupt you, but you are more than 5 minutes. So please conclude.
2 seconds. Okay. So I will conclude. So we have created an interactive panels for geotourism to enhance and the geoheritage and promoting learning from this panels that we constructed physically to promote those sites and to benefit the local communities and authorities from this work. So we can sorry for achieving my time, and thank you. You can learn more from the QR code on the slide. Thank you very much.
Mustafa, thank you very much for your presentation, and let's move on to the next presentation, which will be given by Lucia Tahir. Hello, Lucia.
Yes. Hello.
Can you hear us? Yeah, we can hear you. So your 5 minutes start now.
Okay, thank you. Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation. My name is Lutfia Tahir and I'm a geological engineering student at Pajajaran University, Indonesia. So today I will be discussing my collaborative research titled Tracing the Anciensis, Megalodon Teeth Fossils and the Paleogeography of Cisangkal, Pangandaran. So my research was conducted in Pangandaran, a regency located in West Java, Indonesia, and on the southern coast of Java Island, directly facing the Indian Ocean. And my primary location of my research is the Pamutuan Formation. The Pamutuan Formation was deposited during the Middle to Late Miocene and consists of limestone, sandstone, volcanic rocks, and claystone, representing a sedimentary unit indicative of a shallow marine depositional environment. This formation provides insight into geological and paleoecological history, and its depositional characteristics exhibit similarities with other shallow marine environments, supporting interpretation of past oceanic conditions. One of the most remarkable paleontological findings in this formation is the presence of Megalodon teeth fossils. As an apex predator, Megalodon played a crucial role in the Miocene marine ecosystem, preying on large marine mammals such as whales. This research aims to analyze the depositional characteristics of the shallow marine environment with a special focus on the presence of Megalodon teeth fossils. In this regards, the images I am presenting are still in Indonesian as I obtained them from the Geological Museum of Indonesia, where Megalodon shark teeth fossils are widely documented. Considering that Megalodon could reach a size of 16 to 18 meters with an adult weight of up to 70,000 kilograms. Studying its body size reveals its stability over extensive geological timescales, differing from trends observed in other marine predators. So, from a geotourism perspective, Pamutuan Formation has significant potential as a key site for geological conservation. The presence of fossil-bearing rocks and sedimentary structures can be utilized for educational and tourism initiatives, fostering community engagement in geoconservation. The research method used is a descriptive, analytical, and comparative approach to obtain a comprehensive understanding of geological characteristics of this formation. The research design in this study involves direct field observation, including the identification of lithological characteristics, stratigraphic profiles, and sedimentary structure. Subsequently, fossil sampling and labeling are conducted, involving the collection of rock and fossil samples for laboratory analysis. The research population covers the Pamutuan Formation in Pangandaran with the collected sample including rock samples, Megalodon shark teeth fossil, and other marine fossil for paleontological studies. So the conclusion, Pamutuan Formation is widely distributed in Pangandaran, West Java. This geological setting not only showcases various types of sedimentary deposit but also contain fossils. This is the historical of geological in Pamutuan Formation during the Middle Miocene, Pangandaran was part of deep marine basin with dominant marine sediment consisting of sandstone, limestone, siltstone, and claystone. At this time, Pangandaran was still located 200 meters below sea level. Then, during the middle to late Miocene, volcanic activity occurred, causing volcanic material to mix with sediments. Additionally, the presence of strong ocean currents facilitated continuous sediment transport and deposition. In the Pliocene to Pleistocene, tectonic movement to lead to marine regression, causing sea showering and an increased supply of terrestrial clastic material. Sediment accumulation continued, enriching fossil content, including Megalodon shark teeth and other marine fauna trapped within the sediment layers. During the Holocene until the present, the area was once the seafloor began experiencing uplift due to tectonic processes, emerging rock outcrops observed on the land. Coastline changes and erosion further exposed fossil-bearing layers. Currently, the land is now situated 330 meters above sea level. So, over 5 million years, Pamutuan Formation has undergone an uplift of 500 meters, meaning the uplift or movement occurred at a rate of approximately 0.01 to 0.16 millimeter per year. So, this is the fossilized shark teeth. The shark tooth replacement process and shallow to deep marine depositional environment, geochemical condition favoring fossilization, and transport and deposition processing. So in conclusion, this study is not enhances scientific understanding of the Pamutuan Formation, but also reaffirms the significance as a geological heritage site. The findings presented in this research serve as an important reference to future studies related to paleogeographic reconstruction, but both in academic context and in conservation strategies. So that's everything I want to say about my presentation for today. I sincerely appreciate this because I have this opportunity to present my presentation to you.
Lucia, thank you very much for your presentation. And let's move on to the next topic, which will be given by Irene Zananirini on the geological diversity, geoscience, and geotourism in Greece.
Hello.
The stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you all. My name is Irene Zananiri from the Hellenic Survey of Geology and Mineral Exploration of Greece, and I would like to give you a brief overview of the work carried out over the last few years about the geological diversity, geosites, and geotourism in Greece. Greece is located in the convergence space of two tectonic plates and is characterized by an active tectonic regime and a complex geological structure exhibiting a variety of geological formations, landforms, and geological processes that are of particular scientific or educational interest, while many of those have high cultural and touristic value. The Hellenic Survey of Geology and Mineral Exploration has been working towards the recording, designation, and promotion of the Hellenic geodiversity for the past 3 decades. In the frame of the GeoInfra project, work package 5 that has been completed recently, a systematic GIS geodatabase has been compiled where available through the portal of the Hellenic Survey with the up to now listed geosites and geotrails in Greece. During the GeoInfra project, through systematic fieldwork, more than 1,800 sites of geological diversity have been recorded, and about 90 geotrails have been designed, connecting attractions of geological, archaeological, historical, cultural, environmental, and religious significance, as well as sites important for biodiversity, aiming to narrate the story of a destination in a holistic way. Moreover, the Lavreotiki Geopark in Attica was designated as a UNESCO Global Geopark in 2023 after successfully submitting an application to SPIE compiled by the Hellenic Survey researchers. Finally, for the promotion of the Hellenic Geoheritage to the public, several tools were used, like leaflets, interpretation panels, about 100 both in Greek and English, ESRI story maps, online tourist guides, and a mobile application both for Android and iOS devices, especially designed to show the up to now recorded geosites and geotrails in Greece. During the GeoInfra project, several areas were explored to assess their potential for the development of geotourism in future works and the possibility of establishing new geoparks in Greece. Among the several destinations, special interest arose for the Argolida and Arcadia regional units in southern Greece, Chalkidiki Peninsula in northern Greece, and the islands of Chios and Kythera. Local communities collaborated during its fieldwork and in many cases supported the scientific team, which was quite important for the success of the project. Soon another similar project starts, and we are quite excited to focus on several areas for the detailed recording of geosites and the design of geotrails, but also we plan to pay special attention to the to the use of modern technology for dissemination and educational processes. So that's briefly what I would like to share with you, and thank you all for your attention.
Thank you very much for keeping
you.
the time as tight as possible. Thank you very much. And let's move
Thank
on
you.
to the last presentation in this part of the second session of the OxGVC 2025, which will be given by Lucia Kubalikova. Ahoy, Lucia, the stage is yours. Lucy, unmute your mic.
So thank you. I would like to present the research that I conducted with my colleagues Karel Kirchner and Piotr Migoň, and it's focused on representative sandstone heritage in a less known area in Czechia, because in Czechia usually people know Bohemian Cretaceous rock cities, but Flemish Carpathian sandstones are rather omitted, so it's a region-specific study. We wanted to capture the most representative sandstone cracks and assess them in terms of threats and degradation risk. And based on this, we try to discuss some conservation challenges and management proposals. Regarding the methods, at first, identification, description, mapping of sandstone cracks. We wanted to capture mostly geomorphological features such as microform and mesoforms. You can see some examples on the right side. Some of the cracks are isolated of huge, rather bigger dimensions. Some of them are anthropogenically modified. And then we set several criteria for degradation risk assessment, like integrity, accessibility, tourist infrastructure, site management, ledge protection, proximity of degradation areas, current use, visitation, use limitations. And then we identified particular threats such as recreation, tourist pressure, changes in land use, and so on. And we applied a risk assessment metrics when we assessed the probability and impact of particular threats. So I'm sorry it doesn't fit. It's not very well readable. So I will try to explain. Here you can see, or more or less, results. Based on the risk assessment, we identified the most important threats, which are represented by recreation and climbing. But in climbing, it's also like a challenge to deal with this via some project and some collaboration. So the most important thing is that not every time ledge conservation works well, and it's better to develop bottom-up approaches, including citizen science activities, cooperation between climbing association, and develop synergy between climbing activities and geoeducation. The last thing which I would like to stress or focus, not only Bohemian Cretaceous rock cities, but also sandstone cracks in Flemish Carpathian possess high geoheritage values and deserves attention. And the most important challenge is to protect the sites and to set the regular monitoring of the sites and implementation of bottom-up approaches, including citizen science activities, cooperation with local stakeholders, and climbers association. So that's all from me. Thank you for the attention.
Lucy, thank you very much for keeping the time. And this is all from the first part of the second session of the conference from the first day. Now we are slightly delayed, but we still have some time for the questions. So let's move on. All the people back on stage. Lucy is here. Who else? Rita Antonio and Silas. Silas, there are two questions which are directed to you. The first was, what mining methods expose more geoheritage and what destroy geoheritage?
So this is a very interesting question. So what expose more geoheritage? What type of geoheritage is more exposed by mining? So in my research, I discovered that mineralogical and the cosmogenical geoheritage types are the most dependent on mining. So this kind of geoheritage is more exposed on mining environments. Also, we noted in the third and the fourth place for the paleontological heritage and also for the igneous heritage, mainly for the volcanic stratigraphic sections. We have this relation. So these results will be published hopefully in this year in the episode journal, and we can have these details more explained. Professor Lubomir.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your answer. I hope it is enough. And then there was a comment or a demand from Yasim Fontana on Mustafa. If you could please share the link to the 3D virtual visit if possible.
Of course.
Okay.
I will share the link to the paper containing all information that you need, the 3D models and the link to the raw data.
Great.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And we have time for one more comment or question from Procopio Resabal. Some Megalodon shark fossils were found in Mariboyok Bohol in 2016, then some later. How do we utilize such finds to launch geoheritage program in the area? I think this is question for Iran, but I'm not sure.
No, it's not for me.
No.
Question for
Okay,
Luthia.
Luthia. Oh, thank you, Jack.
Yes.
Luthia, once again, please, you can see the question or I can or may read it for you. How do we utilize some fossil finds to launch geoheritage programs in the area?
Okay, thank you for the question. Maybe here are some the key steps. First, we can scientific research and documentation, so we can determine the age of the fossil, the depositional environment and significance of the fossil, and then we can publish research in scientific journal to validate the site's importance and attract academic interest. And the second, we can collaborate with local and national to secure legal protection for the site, and then maybe we can organize public talks, fossil exhibition, and guide tours in partnership with local museums and scientific institutions. And then we can partner with the local business to develop sustainable geotourism package, creating economic opportunities for the community. I think there is the key to utilize such fund to launch geoheritage program in that area.
Thank you very much for your answer. And let's move on. Let's move on to the second part of our wonderful conference, where the first person who will present is Peter Krieger on the geoaesthetics of the Mexican volcanic shell. Peter, the stage is yours for next 15 minutes.
Yes, thank you. I'm Peter Krieger from the Mexican National University, and I'm going to talk about the geoaesthetics of the volcano Chicle and the potential of a new interdisciplinary research concept. Let me just see how it move. So my talk has three parts, and the first begins with a statement that the geopreservation basically is a paradox, but it is necessary. And if we see such photographs here of the geo-landscapes and even of paintings from the Romantic era, early 19th century, then we have views into the deep time of Earth. And we see and we are facing the different temporalities of our own short life as human beings on Earth and the millions of years in which the Earth crust is configured.
Peter, sorry to
so we have to face a dynamic evolution of the
Peter, sorry to interrupt. You're not in presenter view at the moment, so the people at home still are only seeing slide 1.
Okay. Well, I'm seeing slide 2.
I think you are sharing a different screen, but that's fine. Just make sure that on the view that we can see, you click through the slides on the left-hand side. Otherwise, the people at home will won't see the right slide.
Do you see it now?
We see slide 3.
This is. Can you see the slide 3?
We see slide 3, and on the left-hand side is the list of slides. So you will need to click through the slides if you are using that view.
Okay. So you see slide 4?
Slide 4, that's the way to do it.
Okay, okay. So the question is whether we really should preserve a snapshot of Earth history, whether we make a photographic conservation of just one period. And the answer is yes, we have to protect the current state of the geolandscapes, and especially in the megacities of the global south. I show you here an aerial photo of the Mexican basin, the northern part of Mexico City. So where we have to face the brutal reality that extreme hyper-urbanization, illegal settlements are questioning the geomorphological identity of Mexico City. And it's even worse when we think of the cartography. I'll show you here from the Atlas of Risk of Mexico City representation of the natural areas, which indeed are not so nice in green color, but they are interfered by illegal settlements. You see on the right side that affects also the volcanic heritage of Mexico City or of Mexico with a transvolcanic belt of 10,000 volcanoes. So we have to face problems such as the volcano Chicle in the southern part of Mexico City, where you see that an extinct volcano is used for agricultural uses, but it is threatened by this extreme processes of hyper-urbanization. Or we have other problems such as the Mexican volcano Ualiski, which is a natural protected site, but indeed it's a site of environmental crime of illegal mining of the Pezontla, of the tuff stone. And also we have the case of the Chicle, which is the main topic of my presentation today, monogenetic volcano from the 3rd century, which created lava flows of about 80 square kilometers, creating what is called Pedregal, a stony desert with a unique ecosystem. And we see here how these places were reduced to an extreme. In 1945, when the National University occupied the campus on this site, there were still some big parts of the Pedregal with a high level of bio and geodiversity. But in 1983, it was only a few spaces. There were only a few spaces left, and so these images here on the left side, the detail of the lava flows, and on the right side, the extreme hyper-urbanization, which covers the sports, which covers the tough stone and so on, is an indicator and a visual proof of the so-called Anthropocene. I know it's not an official category, but it's a category of environmental criticism. So such images allow us a deeper understanding of the problem and also legitimize the conservation of geoheritage in times when technomass is heavier than biomass on Earth. So now come to the second point of my talk, and that says that geopreservation essentially requires the knowledge of Bildwissenschaft. Bildwissenschaft has a not correct translation into English, science of the image. Of course, science in English is not applied to the humanities, but it's the idea of the aesthetic research in the sense, in the understanding that aesthetics, it's not the normative definition of beauty, but it's sensorial cognitions. So the image, as we analyze it, serves as a catalyst for critical knowledge production, and we investigate or we research about the discursive impact of the image and the based on the Anthropocene. And one of the founding fathers of this method is Alexander von Humboldt, with his concept of relating scientific research and aesthetic understanding of landscapes, including innovative visual schemes such as this geography of plants, which we see here on the right side. So when we see images, our neural connections create other types of understandings than the scientific methods, mathematics, and so on, physics. And so aesthetic research analyzes the visual construction and conceptualization of volcanic landscapes in different times and in culture, and tries to explore this as a source for knowledge production and also for geoconservation. It's important to mention that we see the image as an autonomous epistemic potential and not a mere illustration. So the geoaesthetics is closely related to what is called the geological turn, which was proclaimed about 12 years ago, that these issues of geology are also topics for the humanities and also for the arts. And we did some projects, some books and colloquia, for example, the Mountain Aesthetics and Ecology, the Conceptual Heritage of Alexander von Humboldt in the Americas, where I, together with my colleagues, explained this concept. The third and last point is about the Schiedl volcano and the Repta, which for me is a paradigmatic case of geopreservation. What we find in this lava fields, these originally about 80 square kilometers of lava fields, was kind of a dequalification as badlands, mal país in Spanish, of these lava fields. And what we find is that about in the 1930s, 40s, artists such as the famous photographer Armando Salas Portugal, or the painter Luis Chisawa, also the very famous painter Diego Rivera and Dr. Atl and others, succeeded in recodifying these badlands something positive as a essential geomorphological identity of Mexico, which is a volcanic country, via their compositions in photograph, painting, and so on. But these lava fields, although they were re-evaluated as something positive, are threatened by infrastructure. And I'll show you here a photograph, an aerial photograph of 1942, with a new infrastructure of a petroleum country, of an oil country, Mexico, and the cult, the one-dimensional cult of automobile modernity imported by the US, where you see how the surfaces are covered with the shining infrastructures of supposed modernity. These lava fields are also threatened by informal and so illegal housing. I show you here a construction on the lava stone rocks, and even around the Schickle, which is a protected site, the Schickle volcano, you find in the woods illegal construction. So there are interferences of human settlements, of uncontrolled human settlements, with the original substance of the lava fields. Another threat is garbage. So I recently published a book on this, that many people still see these lava fields, the remaining lava fields, as a kind of badlands and use them as a garbage dump. So there's a task for re-education via visual education, via aesthetic research. And there's another threat by commercial urban developments. One of the last parts of this Pedregal, the stony desert, was some years ago covered by a huge shopping mall, the Art shopping mall in the Pedregal, which was a really an environmental crime, but it was made possible by the local government. So under these conditions, I want to point out the importance of the preservation of the ecological reserve REPSA, Reserva Ecológica del Pedregal de San Ángel, which is located in the university city and remains about 2.37 square kilometers of these lava fields, and leave them untouched and leave them in their status. So for me, this is a model for the redefinition of the relationship between the city and nature via geopreservation. So to say, not to build more green parks in the city, but just leave the original substance, the geological authentic substance, leave it in a protected site. And all this is supported by geo-aesthetic research. So to finish this paper or this talk here, I'd like to first thank the organizers of the Oxford Geoheritage Virtual Conference, also to my institute, which is the Institute of Aesthetic Research at the National University of Mexico, where I collaborate with some project, the GeoCity project, about geosites in southern Mexico City, the PUES, which is an interdisciplinary research on soils, the REPSA, which is the ecological reservation of the Stony Desert, and also with the UNESCO Geopark Comarca Minera, which actually is endangered at present. And I would like to thank them for the productive and collaboration epistemic synergies between geology and Bildwissenschaft, the science of the image. Thank you.
Peter, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation on the topic of geoaesthetics, which I personally find really interesting. Unfortunately, I can see no question on this topic. So just shortly, how long are you dealing with this topic?
Well, I started maybe about 2000 with the relation of aesthetics and ecology. You know, many of us, many people think that artistry or aesthetic studies is something superficial, but I feel the ideas of relating myself to current political topics, and the main thing for me is ecology. So I studied the relation of city and water, of city and air, but my real passion is geology. I mean, I'm art historian, but I like geology. So I began, I think, in 2016 with a colloquium on Geopolis, the relation between what images can contribute to this debate, because you as scientists, you communicate your contents via images. And images serve as educational tools, but there is kind of a naive relationship to images. For example, at this project on the soils, I have tracking a database and ask every scientist from chemistry, from physics, from everywhere, from edapology, what he or she uses as a visual communication of scientific contents. And I think, especially in the question of geoheritage, you cannot only document the geological information, but you also need an educational concept, and see that the perception of the landscape and the conceptualization of the landscape is an important tool for making people understand and accept these preservation issues.
Yes, thank you very much. Thank you very much once again for your presentation and for your reply to my question. And let's move on. Let's move on to the next presentation, which will be given by Nicolas Chicaro. I hope I did not.
It's not easy to pronounce.
Okay. Thank you. Yours. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nicolas Chicharro, and we are studying anthropic impacts on recent volcanism geoheritage of the Canary Islands. In this work in particular, we will talk about these two volcanoes in Tenerife Island, Montaña de la Orca and Montaña de los Frailes. Okay. The Canary Islands are the most populated archipelago in the Macaronesia region, and also the one which receives more tourists annually. Inside the archipelago, Tenerife is the most populated and visited island, and thus land use pressure is very high, often threatening geoheritage. Commonly, population concentrates near the coast in the Canaries, especially in the more touristic areas. This, coupled with the importance of tourism and agriculture in the economy, leads to a situation where protection of coastal geoheritage is no priority. Therefore, volcanoes formed near the sea are often very degraded. One of the most extreme cases are Montaña de la Orca and Montaña de los Frailes recent volcanoes, which we will be discussing in this work. Tenerife's recent activity is exclusive to reef systems, which are represented in purple in the map, and the Teide Pico Viejo complex painted in green in the center of the island. However, historical eruptions, which occurred after the Hispanic occupation of the archipelago approximately 500 years ago, were restricted to northwest and northeast reef systems. Reef volcanism is characterized by monogenetic strombolian eruptions with basic to intermediate composition, and these eruptions typically follow a 3 geological units structure: a cinder cone, a lava field, and a delta if the lava flows reach the sea. This is very common in the archipelago, and Montaña de los Frailes and Montaña de la Orca fall under this definition. This is a picture of both volcanoes, and as you can see, they are not easy to recognize. These are the cinder cones, which are the best preserved elements, and this is the entire extent of their deposits. As I just said, they follow the cinder cone, lava field, and delta structure. These volcanoes are considered as northeast reef system eruptions and are the only examples of recent volcanism produced inside the Orotava Valley. The Orotava Valley is a major geographical feature of the island with a very high population density. They were originally thought to be historical eruptions, but were correctly later dated as late Pleistocene. Very few scientific works have been made on them, only one paper dedicated to Montaña de la Orca and small mentions in reports of Spain's geological maps. The main issue these volcanoes face is that they have endured the growth of Puerto de la Cruz city since the 15th century, which to this day remains as one of the most important cities, with the highest population density of Tenerife, and also receiving 800,000 tourists annually. Geoheritage values were assessed following the Spanish inventory of geosites methodology. In the Canary Islands, more than 300 geosites are included in the inventory, 28 of them representing historical and recent volcanism. Each geosite undergoes a scientific, touristic, and educational value assessment and a natural and anthropic risk of degradation evaluation. These do not have any legal implication, but they serve as a framework for the authorities. It is important to mention that Montaña de la Orca and Montaña de los Frailes do not have their own entry in the inventory and instead are included in La Orotava mega landslide geosite. Data are compared to Tenerife's historical eruptions, which have their own geosites, and other volcanoes of the archipelago of similar characteristics and age. Our volcanoes show low scientific value with no other recent eruption of the archipelago falling on their high value. So with Montaña de la Orca and Montaña de los Frailes having similar geological characteristics as other recent volcanoes, the low scientific value doesn't respond to intrinsic geological properties, but external variables, such as state of conservation and scientific knowledge about them. Educational and touristic values are medium to high, similar to other volcanoes. However, they could be a lot higher due to their location and accessibility, which is far better than any other volcano on the list. But the poor observability of the degraded elements lower these values. Small differences between both volcanoes are caused by Montaña de los Frailes being protected by a natural monument figure, which has led to a slightly better conservation of the cinder cone and thus to a higher value. With the risk of degradation being directly proportionate to value, Montaña de los Frailes display slightly higher risk of natural degradation. On the contrary, risk of anthropic degradation is lower than Montaña de la Orca due to the former being partially protected. The current state of conservation is the following. Degradation is so intense, no element of these volcanoes is intact. Montaña de la Orca's cinder cone hosts a massive hotel complex on its top. The lava fields are completely decapitated by urban areas, roads, and crop fields. The lava structures can only be seen in roadsides. The best preserved element, as mentioned earlier, is Montaña de los Frailes cinder cone due to legal protection, which even maintains its original crater shape. And the worst portion of these geosites are lava deltas, which, as you can see on the photo on the left, have endured removal of a lot of material due to intense human activities, such as parking areas or resorts. Now, going into discussion, we have identified a chain of events that can describe the current situation. First, intense anthropization since the 15th century has led to these volcanoes entail little interest from scientists. The low amount of scientific research made on them has lowered their geoheritage value, especially scientific value, and lower values decrease risk of degradation, which in turn prevents these volcanoes to be recognized as significant natural heritage elements worthy of protection. This last item fits back into the first step of the chain. Two questions rises as we talk about intense degradation of these volcanoes. Can they be further degraded, and why would we want to protect them if they are already heavily damaged? Well, recent volcanism is one of the elements of volcanic islands most susceptible to climate change, as rising sea levels threats lava deltas. Many infrastructure and properties are concentrated in lava deltas in the Canaries, so numerous crab fields and, most importantly, villages and cities are endangered by both direct rise in sea level and intense erosion. The case of Puerto de la Cruz, on top of our volcanoes, is especially concerning as intense human activities facilitate erosion by a massive removal of lava delta material. These pictures on the right show flood maps of +2 and +5 meters of sea level rise in the lava deltas of our volcanoes. It's important to mention that these maps does not take into account loss of landmass by erosion. Until these volcanoes were correctly dated in 2010, volcanic hazard assessments in Tenerife Island were erroneous. With Montaña de la Orca and Montaña de los Frailes being considered historical eruptions, Tenerife would be far more active than it truly is, especially in the northeast rift sector. Only one work was needed to reconsider the entire manner hazard assessments were made in Tenerife. This is further discussed in Carracedo and colleagues' paper from 2010. This can show how important it is to properly study recent volcanoes and, consequently, how much information can be easily obtained from these poorly studied geosites. It is common in the Canary Islands that certain elements of recent volcanism aren't equally preserved or protected. For example, many La Palmas or Tenerife's historical eruptions have their lava deltas heavily anthropized, while cinder cones and lava fields fall inside natural parks or reserves and thus are well preserved. This is a dangerous situation as failing to study some volcanic elements due to intense anthropization can increase uncertainties in scientific research and hazard assessments. In the case of further degraded volcanoes, such as Montaña de la Orca and Montaña de los Frailes, the uncertainties are even larger. At the same time, poor conservation leads to low awareness of geoheritage, but most importantly, geological hazards. These, coupled with natural impacts on lava deltas, make loss of volcanic geoheritage a matter of scientific, social, and economic impact. So, we propose the case of Montaña de los Frailes and Montaña de la Orca to serve as a reminder for scientists, but also authorities and population, that failing to protect certain elements involves a loss of geoheritage, which can impact society, economy, and culture. They should also be an example of what newly formed volcanoes could look like in a few decades if no action is taken. In this figure, our volcanoes can represent different states of conservation, of degradation of cinder cones. For them to better serve this purpose, they could be included in the Spanish inventory of geosites, so they can help increasing awareness for volcanic geoheritage and hazards in La Orotava. And this won't be the first example of a very degraded geosite being included in the inventory for this reason. We also encourage more scientific research to be done in these volcanoes to help them gain value. And lastly, we acknowledge that these volcanoes, despite the intense degradation they face, still have scientific, educational, and touristic uses. Thank you so much for your attention.
Nicolas, thank you very much for your presentation. We already have one question, which you can see now on the screen.
Yes.
Do you think that the recent eruption in La Palma has changed how the inhabitants of the islands consider those volcanoes? Can it help in their conservation and valorization?
Okay, thank you for the question. Well, the actual situation in La Palma is complicated because so much property has been destroyed that people are generally upset about the situation. So they are desperate for recovering the land that is covered now by the new lavas. No? So this is actually no help for conservation, but the opposite. This is difficulting the conservation of the volcano.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you very much once again for your presentation on very interesting topic. And in case there is no other question, I think Estefania is ready to give her speech. So we will proceed to the very last presentation of today's part of our wonderful conference. Estefania, please feel free to present your presentation.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We hear you, Estefania. Please proceed.
Thank you very much. Hi, everyone, and thank you to the organizers for making this session possible. Today, I'm going to talk about one of the components of my PhD research on participatory decision-making for geoconservation. And first, I want to thank my co-authors and all the organizations who made this project possible, the University of Texas at Austin, our local collaborators in Jamaica, the Alligator Head Foundation, the University of the West Indies, and the National Science Foundation. So here in this slide, you can see a group of local stakeholders during a workshop that we facilitated to promote participatory decision-making. But first, I want to introduce you to the area of study, which is Jamaica. Jamaica is a Caribbean island located along the plate boundary, the North American and Caribbean plate boundary. And we identified sites of geological relevance in the northeast coast of the island in the parish of Portland. These sites represent a representative of main phases on Jamaican geological history. I'm not going to enter in detail here, but there is a publication by the Geological Society of London 2023 that details the geological relevance of these sites. I do want to mention that we worked with the Alligator Head Foundation. They manage a marine sanctuary in this region, and my dissertation, the title of my dissertation was An Earth Systems Approach to Conservation Connecting Ocean, Mountains, Rivers, and People. So one important component, the geological component, was studying modern processes and, for example, how contaminants from rivers could be impacting the marine environment. And in geoconservation, beyond the geological relevance of a region, we also talk about the connections of geodiversity with biodiversity and cultural heritage. So in this region, geodiversity underpins Jamaica's only World Heritage Site, which is home of many endemic species, and it also has a very important cultural value because of the Maroon communities. Maroons are descendants of Africans, and during the
resistance to British colonialism. They found in this region a refugee to resist and to fight against British colonialism. And after the independence, they were granted lands, and they still live in this region, and their knowledge of nature is part of the legacy, of the cultural legacy of this region. And one more component in geoconservation approaches is the bottom-up approach and the leading role of the communities in the geoconservation initiative. So we worked with different local stakeholders, we interviewed them, we developed a series of workshops, and today I'm going to be talking about one of those workshops, but who were these local stakeholders? Farmers, fisher folk, touristic operators, artists, teachers, representatives from the Moortown Maroons, students and lecturers of geosciences from the University of the West Indies, the local University of Jamaica, in Jamaica, and representatives from environmental organizations. So in the workshop, we introduced this geological relevance, and we built this map with the local stakeholders. We talk about the cultural and natural heritage of the region, and we presented a hypothetical scenario where the local government received two proposals to manage this region. This is hypothetical. One proposal was community-based tourism, and the other one a private resort. And the scenario was the local government want to know what the community thinks is the best option or the preferred project for this region. And we wanted to research participatory decision-making, and we used the analytic hierarchy process, which is an economic model proposed by Satie in 1988. Satie was a professor in the business school of the University of Pittsburgh. And based on the idea that when you make a decision, there are multiple criteria you have to consider simultaneously, and more in this type of geoconservation projects that have many interests and many perspectives, there are multiple criteria to consider. Satie proposes to structure the decision process on a hierarchy with three main components. The first, a goal. In this case, it was the conservation of the air system, land, ocean, people. Second, criteria. We identify these criteria with the local stakeholders. We selected two main criteria. It was funding and reef health in order to make this decision. And the alternatives in this case were two different proposals, two different projects, a resort and community-based tourism. So I'm not going to enter on the detail of the math here, but I want to tell you that the model is based on pairwise comparison. And maybe the important to notice that you are always comparing two components of the model. So for example, the first pair comparison matrix, the result will tell you, when you only consider funding, what alternative is preferred, resort or community-based tourism? And the value of 1 means that there's no preference, and then there is a scale from 1 to 9 to express preference. So for example, this number 5 express that the resort is preferred over community-based tourism in this example. And we had a challenge. We wanted to do this research and to implement the analytic hierarchy process with community members who had never seen this mathematical approach before. So we designed a participatory session, and also we designed some tools to promote this participatory decision-making approach. So one of those tools was this decision-making board that the participants will use to express preference between two of the components of the model. They were working in teams. There were 3 teams, and in each team there was one board and one scriber. The scriber was a geoscience student. They expressed how meaningful was this participation in this workshop. For them, they were working with the communities on a project on geoconservation. Every participant was instructed to use the decision-making board to express preference between the two components in different rounds. So the first round asked the participants what project is preferred if we only consider funding, which was the first criteria. And this is how the results looks like. Something that was very important is that we were able to present the results. These same figures that you are seeing, we presented them to the community in real time. We achieved this with the help of the scribes, who were the students. They were collecting the data in real time. And this is how the results look like. So for example, if we only consider funding, nine people selected resort as the best alternative. 9 people selected community-based tourism as the best alternative. And then with that, we calculated a group choice. What is important about the group choice is that it's a weighted average. So if 10 people selected extreme resort and 10 people selected extreme community-based tourism, the group choice will be in the middle. It was something in the middle. And that group choice is what we use to build the pair comparison matrix. And basically the result of the pair comparison matrix is a percentage of preference. So in this case, resort is preferred 75% over community-based tourism. And this is another way to visualize the same information. And then there was a second round where we asked what project is preferred if we only consider reef health. And in this case, the participants selected community tourism. It was 83.3% preferred over resort. And then we have the reasons. This is also important. We asked them why they were selecting what they were selecting. So the reason mostly is that community-based tourism is more environmentally conscious. And then we have to weight the criteria. So same methodology, what is more important, funding or reef health? And in this case, the answer is reef health is more important, 83% more important. And the model allows you to compute all of the different weights calculated in the previous rounds. And in this case, considering everything, what project is preferred. In this case, it was community-based tourism with a 73%. This is another way to visualize the same information, the different weights of the components of the project. And what is very, very important is that we are advancing to make decision-making participatory and accountable. Accountable because here we make a decision that can be tracked. We know the criteria that we consider to make the decision. We know what criteria was more important. Was it funding? Was it marine environment health? And we also have a data set with all the participants' entries in each round. So we can say that it was participatory because every person's input is reflected in this model. And this is like a summary of what I already said. And with this, I will take any questions you may have. Thank you a lot to the participants who made this possible and the institutions and the collaborators.
Estefania, thank you very much for your nice presentation on really interesting topic. You've done a really complex research, which is really important for the geoconservation strategies, especially from the bottom-up initiatives. We have one question for you from the audience, given by Procopio Rezabal. What challenges did you face in the use of participatory approach and tools? How did you resolve or face them?
One challenge, for example, is the size of the group, because we were working with 20 participants, and it depends a little bit on, we wanted to have a scribe in each table, so it depends on the research team. We had the help of the students, which made everything work better. So I think the challenge was like, how are we going to guarantee that every person has a voice in this model? And the answer was, we had the students' help. They were the facilitators in each table, and they were geoscientists. So the entire process was very valuable also for them, because they had the opportunity to interact with the stakeholders, So like a robust research team with the help of the students who are engaged in this type of research is very advisable. I think that's, yeah, that's one example.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your answer. And we have another question, which is given by Naomi Irapta. What are the expected next steps in the community from this project? Are they pursuing setting up a community-based tourism program, or does it already exist?
As I mentioned, it was a hypothetical scenario. So next step will be to like implement the approach in a real decision-making scenario. We have to be mindful that in this region, as probably in many different regions in geoconservation initiatives, community-based tourism exists, but a private like resort in this region also exists. So both management approaches exist in this region. So if we want to make it real, we will need to take, for example, one of those management approaches and set a decision-making board. So who are the people who are going to make these decisions? They should be people who are impacted by the decision and also who can impact the decision. And with that decision-making board, implement a workshop or like this type of participatory approach. But yes, moving forward, we will have to go from the hypothetical to like the real example, real scenario.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much again, Estefania, for your really interesting topic and the answers to the questions.
Thank you for the opportunity to present.
You're very welcome. And that's all for today's part of the conference. We are done and finished both sessions, which, at least from my point of view, gave a lot of interesting topics, information, and new ways of geoheritage research and potential directions where our attention should be put on. So if you are interested in, hopefully you are, all of you and many more, don't forget to stay tuned for tomorrow's session 3 and session 4, starting again at 2:00 p.m. or Greenwich Mean Time. And we look forward to see you tomorrow. Well, that's all for today. Thank you very much. Have a great time and hopefully see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.